Hodgson put him on his back. Thurston, right foot kick, down the ground, into the in goal almost. Hodgson cuts it off. Hodgson taken by Norton. He took him late. Marshall skips away. Marshall's still going. Marshall's got Richards coming up outside. Now inside. Richards pursued. He pushes Johnson away.
Good morning, good day, good evening, everybody. Wednesday, the 14th of August, 2024. You're back for another episode of the Tiger Town podcast with your hosts, Zac and Toby. A little bit of a late one this week. That matches up with an early one last week. As of yet, there is still no recent arrival in my behalf, so we're just playing the waiting game over here. Toby's on the other end of the line. The show, as always, is brought to you by Best On Ground Digital, bestongrounddigital.com, digital marketing agency that looks after the little guy. They support the show, we support them. How you going, buddy?
Yeah, I'm right, mate. Yeah, the late one today because I had Mrs. birthday yesterday, so obviously had to go out.
It was Monday, don't lie.
It was Monday, but we celebrated with some friends yesterday because we were in Melbourne over the weekend. So
yeah, right. Happy
yeah.
days, friends, eh? Where'd you buy them?
Friends?
Yeah.
Oh, they're old ones from way back. I think my mum still pays them.
Ah, good. Yeah. No, fair enough. I remember your mum talking to me about how much she was going to give me to pretend I was friends with you, but it wasn't worth it. So
yeah,
here we are.
So, there you are. You did it out of the goodness of your heart.
I do try.
Bullshit,
mate. You're drowning over there at the moment. We've been copping.
Yeah,
a little bit of a
hasn't really
torrential downpour the last few days.
Yeah, and the thing about Brisbane is when it rains, even in winter, it gets muggy for some bloody reason.
Mate, we've got a 28-degree day coming up in a couple of days at the end of winter.
Gross.
That's a disgrace. I think we need to call the union and march on Parliament.
We can't be having CMFEU.
Yeah, I'm not touching that. But maybe we need to go and protest the Bureau of Meteorology or something and see if they can do something about that. 28 degrees in winter? No, that's incorrect.
That is
anyway,
incorrect.
Moving on. Mate, a couple of things to talk about before we jump into looking at how we went last week against the Knights. We know how we went. Everybody knows how we went, but we'll look at that game in detail very shortly. But, mate, news coming out today that there has been a release of some Hall of Fame inductees, or there will be some Hall of Fame inductees. A few notable mentions on there, past Magpies and Tigers, Balmain Tigers players in Les Boyd and Benny Elias, respectively, both legends of their respective clubs and the foundation clubs. Obviously, big and successful careers. Les in particular, quite a scary bloke, and Benny Elias, quite a pain in the arse. So, but the big one, mate, obviously is one Benjamin Quinton Marshall. He's been inducted as well, which is awesome because look, you know, how would you sum up Benji Marshall's career in a sentence? I'll let you go first.
Trailblazer. I think it's
that's a word, but you can expand if you want.
You know, that's
you're right.
You think about all the kids that are playing, all the young kids that are coming through, even the ones that are probably, you know, early 20s, mid to early 20s. They watched Benji Marshall step. They watched Benji Marshall flick pass. They watched Benji Marshall chip and chase. Nothing that was really done to that, I guess, to that grand stage, I guess, but prior to him. And everyone, like, you know, we're actually not much younger than Benji. I think we're only a couple of years younger than Benji. So we weren't the ones going out in the backyard doing flick passes and things like that, you know, even though we probably kind of were, but no, we don't need to talk about that. But the kids, the next generation, every one of them would have been going out trying to emulate him, especially a lot of the Kiwi boys and a lot of the Islander boys, definitely 100%, because it's ingrained in them. So, yeah, I'd say he set a new standard in terms of flair.
Yeah, and it wasn't just for our club. He changed the game. You know, there was nothing like him ever that had appeared, and he changed the way that people saw certain positions and the roles that certain people can play. And he was a dazzling player. And for so long, you know, we remember the early days in the mid-2000s following his debut in 2003. And, you know, the amount of shoulder reconstructions that we had early on because he was, you know, as he's built like a pencil and a praying mantis. Tiny dude he was.
Mm.
And for a long time there, I don't know that many Tigers fans or rugby league fans in general, particularly Tigers fans, had much confidence that he was going to have a long career. Because what did he end up having? Was it 5 shoulder reconstructions, I think? And I think 3 of them took him out for the best part of individual seasons. But
Remember, he had one in 07 and 06, I think. And I think he had one prior, like back in 03 as well.
as well.
Maybe
I think
04.
Yeah, and then he came back, and his first full season was 05, I think, and that's when we caught fire, obviously. But yeah, no, mate, he's obviously he's a club legend, and to put it lightly, he's probably the king of West Tigers, and he's in his position now where he's obviously a key, if not the key stakeholder in our hopeful resurgence moving forward. So well deserved. It's interesting, the concept of Hall of Fame versus Immortal, and I like the fact they're bringing it back and they're trying to bring a bit of prestige to particularly Hall of Fame. Obviously, the Immortals have always been something that's been relatively prestigious, but there is a lot more players outside of those Immortals that need to be recognised, and I think that's what that starts to do, and I hope that it's something that they continue to hold in a really high regard and make it difficult to get into that illustrious club, because it should be, in my opinion.
Absolutely,
And,
absolutely.
Congratulations to Benji and to old Magpie Les and old Tiger Benny Elias. Regardless of what you think of them, what they did on the playing field deserves that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think Darryl Broman's pretty happy about Les Boyd getting inducted, but yep.
Yeah, I don't know. Wonder if they buried the hatchet. That was
Highly
many a decade ago.
Highly doubt it. Pretty certain they're probably still in legal proceedings.
Well, it's hard to say. Mate, just very quickly, have you got a favourite Benji Marshall moment over the last 20 years?
There's so many, but I think
have you got a left field one that maybe isn't the first played on the highlights reel?
You know what? The one that really comes to mind, obviously we've got the 05 Flick Pass and pretty much the 05 season in general, but I think it might have been 2010, and we were playing the Bunnies, and it was a scrum play, and he took it off the scrum, faked under, stepped, went straight through and scored. And I'll always remember Rabs on the commentator saying something along the lines of the best player in the world at the moment, something like that when he scored. Yeah, I remember that one.
Is that the one where he just basically shifts, hits the left foot, straightens, and just goes straight through?
We were playing the Bunnies,
and then he slides on his tummy, and he just stands there. He just lays there smiling. I think that's the one.
Could be. It could
lays
be
there for a moment.
It's either that one, or I remember in the 05 season, we were playing Canberra, and the reason that I know all of this is because, or especially 05 season, is after we won the premiership, there was 2 DVDs that came out. There was the season in review, and then there was the grand final itself, and I bought both as soon as they came out. So it was that long ago because there was DVDs around. We were playing Canberra, and he did the hot and the skip and went straight through and past Marshall Chalk and scored. It was just something beautiful to watch. Like, he stepped him in midair.
There's a name I haven't heard for a while. Yeah, you could think of the Sharks try where he jink, and then no looker after he goes around Peachy. You could think of the round the back to Ashford against the Eagles, which was incredible as well. There's so many memories in there of, back to what you were talking about, him being a trailblazer and his flair. One that sticks in my mind, which didn't really set the tone in a positive way, was the field goal against the Sharks.
No, it was against the Sharks? In 2012?
I think it was 2012, yeah, where we started as competition favourites and struggled in that
first game together,
game.
Actually.
Yeah, that was the one where Teddy did his knee.
Yep.
In his debut, yeah.
Was it that field goal?
It wasn't his best game, but that moment that's etched in my memory when he's big smile on his face after nailing it.
Is either that field goal or the one from 50 out against the Titans.
Yeah,
here we go, Gus. Here we go.
It was impressive as well. That was before the days of the 2-point field goal too.
It was, yeah.
He was on half time, wasn't it?
Smart ass. Yeah, he decided to be a smart ass. That was it.
Very good. All right, mate. The other piece of news is that the Tigers officially today, and unofficially we found out yesterday on Tuesday, have announced the signing of Gerald Skelton from the Bulldogs on a 2-year deal worth a reported $475 over 2. So we're looking at 235, 240 a season odd. Skelton has, quite frankly, been banging down the door of New South Wales Cup over at the Bulldogs, and they've got a series of decent outside backs that they've just ahead of him, essentially. 25 years of age. And obviously they've got Blake Wilson, who's a gun coming through. They've got Carraz, who's young as well, but has relatively well established himself, you'd like to think. And then they've obviously got Addo Carr, who's recently returned from injury. So he just couldn't really get that much of a look in, really. So he's come over to us. Now, mate, the thing about Gerald Skelton that is somewhat exciting, or definitely exciting, is how good he is out of the backfield. You know, we've heard in the last 24, 36 hours, people comparing him to To'o, people comparing him to an old Tuiaki. I heard somebody compare him to Junior Tupou, except more consistent and more powerful, and a little bit lighter on his feet. Bottom line is that coming out of our yardage has been a problem for eons, and he almost single-handedly, but obviously with the help of somebody quick like Taruva, the way that Staines has been carrying the ball, it solves a big problem for us, and that's going to have flow-on effects into our forward pack, mate, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Get us on the front foot very, very quickly. And he'll come in for those tough carries as well. He does that at New South Wales Cup, and he's done that at NRL level as well. Comes in for those tough carries. And, like, if we have a look at who's been playing in our back five over the season, you'd have to say the one person who's actually tried to bend the line has been Charlie Staines. But he's like 80 kilos ringing wet. Or I think Gerald Skelton's a touch over 100. So
he is. What I will say about Staines is that he runs the football harder than anybody in our side in the last 2 or 3 months since he's come back and found his confidence. And he still has to work on a few things. But, you know, anybody that's berating Staines for not putting in isn't paying attention. He had a cracking try saver on the weekend where he outpaced Buller to shut down. Was it Crosland, I think, after a Hetherington break?
When he did the double movement.
Yeah. And so that was Staines that got to him in the end that shut that down. And like we're talking about, the way that he attacks the line coming out of our end is kamikaze-like. It's incredible. The thing that I like about it is if we can then have power runners or the types of runners that are twitchy on the ground that get up, that create a little bit of momentum off the back of it. So not just getting post-contact and making 10 or 12 metres off their carries out of the back end, but they actually get quick play the balls. That's the time for Staines. And Taruva for that matter, because he gets to the advantage line in a moment. And so if we've already got a bit of momentum, he can turn, doesn't matter if he's 80 kilos ringing wet, because he's so quick. And if we have that quick play the ball off the back of a Skelton or a Taruva, he can then make 15 metres, 10, 15 metres just about every time. So I think that's the best place to probably use Staines, would be second or third carry up as opposed to the first, depending on where it all lands. But I think that with Skelton and Taruva coming in and the likes of Staines and whatnot, Buller, if he can show a bit of urgency back at the line, like a Dylan, what's his name?
Edwards.
Dylan Edwards does. I think that goes a long way to improving that. And straight away, I mean, what is that back line, or the likely back line? We don't know what it's going to look like in the end come March next year, but you know, how many metres is that going to add per set? Is he going to add 5 metres? Is he going to add 10? On average, you know, it's hard to say, but you would like to think it's going to improve that area, no doubt.
100%. I think, what is he averaging in the New South Wales Cup? 203 metres a game.
Yeah. So since he's joined the Bulldogs, and this is courtesy of Nothing But West Tigers on X, he has scored in 33 New South Wales Cup games. So 33 games, he's had 33 line breaks, 25 tries. He averages 179 metres a game. He averages 5 tackle breaks a game. And he averages 61 post-contact metres. Earlier in the year, when he played against the Broncos, twice this year, he's had 2 300-metre running games, over 300 metres. 28 carries he took against the Broncos for 300 metres. So he's an absolute metre eater. He's a monster. Big fella, solid in contact and quick feet. He's got really good quick feet at the line as well. So, great signing, mate. Hasn't broken the bank, and it's in an area of need.
he comes from good stock too, with his brother being Will Skelton for the Wallabies. So
Yeah, exactly right. Yep, 100%. And in the announcement, we also saw as well that on the bottom it mentioned that there would be there'd be further signings, coming in the coming days. As of Wednesday, 6:51 p.m. right now, that's not the case. So we would expect, obviously, Thursday or Friday, hopefully, for some of that information to come out. So we could speculate around what that might be, and we might be looking foolish by saying this. I'm going to suggest a Sione Fainu is an extension, and I'm hoping for a Pole extension. There's been a bit of talk about Harrison Hassett out of Panthers, who is former schoolboys captain, I think, from memory, Australian schoolboys captain, and he's a second rower, a young fella who doesn't have much of a look in over there at the moment as a possible backup over there as well. But yeah, it will be interesting, I should say, to see who they've got lined up. I don't anticipate any absolute mammoth kills in the market. I think that we're going to have to sit on our war chest, as it were, into the off-season to get lucky in terms of big names. But anybody else you're, if not hearing, is there anybody else you'd consider or would like to hear?
I'm not hearing anything, but there is somebody who has told that he's not re-signing somewhere and hasn't signed somewhere else. So there's a possibility of Blaze Talangi coming out to us.
Blaze Talangi, Penrith announced him 2 days ago.
Did they? Fuck,
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Good to see you on the ball, mate, as always.
Not for the Panthers. Who gives a shit about the Panthers?
Well, nobody, not even Penrith supporters, but
no, they hate them.
Yeah, so Talangi's going at Penrith. Anybody else, mate, top of your mind? We've spoken about the likely candidates before.
No, I don't think so. I had that one just as a little sneaky jab, but yeah, he can go to a premiership winning team because he's just shit.
Yeah, I think the talk was play 5'8" outside Cleary, and that's got to be a hard contract to turn down for someone like him.
Yeah, that's true. Is he a half?
Yeah, he plays a lot of 5'8". He can play fullback. He's obviously can play centre. I think he's very versatile, but he's played a lot of 5'8" coming through. I think even the odd little bit of halfback, to be honest.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah. There you go, mate. That looks like, I would probably suggest that our back line into next year still needs a little bit of strengthening underneath it. Certainly into the reserve grade, but it'd be hard to imagine with a back line likely, I would say, probably of Buller, Staines, Olam, Taruva and Skelton, that we're going to see any major moves unless, as Richo says, he shakes the tree and somebody mammoth falls out. It's not going to be Valentine Holmes, who we've heard is done to the Dragons. So then where are we turning our attention to? Our hooker stacks are sweet. Our halves are fine. Obviously, we know space is an issue, but, the glaring one's going to be prop, isn't it?
Absolutely. And, he's obviously been told he can leave, but do we want RCG? I don't know.
Yeah, I'll say something I said a bit earlier in the week to somebody about Campbell Gillard. As always, it sounds redundant, but it's price, right?
Yeah.
And I think Regan Campbell Gillard can do a decent job. He's a good football player, and I think he's relatively protected in the middle. He misses a few tackles. I think he's close to 4 a game or something, which is high for a prop for me. I think laterally they're generally better. You're most protected in the middle, so that's a bit of a concern, but it could be, Parramatta's been struggling this season and Paulo's been out for periods of time and they've had a few bits and pieces chop and change around. They don't have a notable hooker. I know they've got Hands and Lussick out there, but those guys aren't world beaters. So I wonder if them collapsing a little bit around the ruck has led to being a bit looser around the middle and maybe contributing to some of his missed tackles this year. But bottom line, he's got New South Wales experience, Australian experience, and I know we've said that about Clemmer, but if he comes at the right price for 2 years, could be a fair shake. Depends on what Parra's willing to pay. Reports he's on $750 at the moment. So look, definitely what is a price that you'd be happy to entertain?
5.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm thinking 5 for 2. I'd be happy with, because we, like it or not, we do lose a lot with Steph going, and I know that we've got some up and comers. I know Polle's had a good year, but he's not there yet. He's not a consistent high minute, high output starting prop. nor is Sione Fainu, as much as we've liked what they've both been doing.
Mm.
So, yeah, I think we still need a couple of years and a bit of a platform there. So, yeah, mate, 5 for 2, I'd entertain.
I still would like to see some more comments around Royce Hunt. I've
Yep.
said this a number of times now. I think that he's obviously been told, especially with Fanua Blake getting there next year, he's a surplus, but he is such a strong runner and always runs with intent.
Yep.
So that's one that I would love to go after personally, but I ain't Richo and I ain't Benji. So
That's true.
that is
Be
very
interesting to
true.
see. I'm hoping for a couple of surprises in the next couple of days.
Yeah,
I don't think that we're going to land any big fish, so I don't want people to get their hopes up too high, but I'm hoping for a couple more of the Skelton-esque signings, a couple of Moneyball signings.
So it's not going to be like the Women in League announcement, the jersey.
No, that was a miss. No comment on that one. Jersey was fine, but yeah, don't do that to people.
No.
I think they got the message from the feedback on how they went about that. Nice jersey and good cause, but don't build us up like that.
No.
Yeah. But that money has to go somewhere, mate. That $2 million has to go somewhere. If Skelton is only getting what we're talking about, that represents roughly a little bit under an eighth of that $2 million, or so to say, amount of money. And I think that's contingent upon Bateman coming back or not coming back as well. If he's not here, I think that figure goes up again if there's a settlement that can be reached. So,
I know he's playing with the club that, a good club, so who knows?
Yeah, good on him. I'm happy for him. I'm happy he's at a good club again. But that money has to go somewhere. So,
what's going on? Why are you being Why are you being on the fence? He's a dick.
I'm not. I'm just not. We've spoken about Bateman. I'm just not going to bog down the podcast talking about Bateman. What I wanted to say, and I'm hoping you're not pulling up zero tackle off contract list, because the amount of times I've had to tell you that is the most boring thing to trawl through when you're looking at who might sign.
What I haven't checked is I wanted to see if they won on the weekend in terms
The
of
Tigers. No, mate, they didn't.
Warrington.
We're about to talk about that game. Oh, okay.
And Warrington.
Now, the point I was just trying to make quickly was that $2 million, it's a lot of money. Sorry, redundant comment of the century, but it's a lot of money even in the playing market. And, if Skelton's under 250, that's an eighth of that. And we don't have the spots to spend on a whole lot. And you can only front load certain contracts that are starting. And even that's difficult. And you can't front load. There's too much, and there's percentage implications around all that sort of stuff too. So that money has to go somewhere. So either Richo's sitting on a lot and doesn't yet have an idea about where it's going to go, or there's a few things in the closet. That's a really weird analogy to choose.
Yeah, not touching
what
that.
I meant. There's a few little surprises up his sleeve, let's say, and let's hope that's the case.
Things in the closet.
Because once again, like Taruva, as much as people have been suggesting Gerald Skelton and would have liked him given where he was, there was very little talk about us chasing him at all until word got out following him letting his teammates know at training on Tuesday morning. So he works in mysterious ways, and he's doing quite a good job at cutting out all the whispers and whatnot. So that does open up the options beyond just those that maybe we might have heard about. So interesting to see. Interesting couple of days as we head towards the weekend.
Yep. Yeah, look, we as West Tigers fans have been dying for some news. So it was nice to see that something came about it, and it was something not just we have resigned Tim Johansson. I'm like, cool, thanks.
Well, that's good, and
that's
credit
good,
to Tim.
But that's not.
It's underwhelming, though, isn't it?
Very underwhelming. Very underwhelming.
When we've been struggling for this long, we need news to peak hope again, and that only comes from names, like it or not.
Because it's not coming from wins.
Interesting, back to Skelton very quickly before we jump into reviewing the Knights game. Almost unanimously, I haven't heard a single Tigers fan on any of the forums, sites, places that I troll be disappointed with it. And almost to a man as well, all the feedback from Bulldog supporters, which is mostly on X because that's where you tend to mingle with all sorts of different supporters, they're all spewing that he's going. So Once again, that's a good sign, and we didn't pay overs if the money reported is on the money. So, great signing.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, a few more
There
of
was
those.
even talks that the Bulldogs were looking to offload Addo Carr to keep Skelton.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. All right, mate. Let's jump into talking about the Knights game on the weekend. So on Sunday afternoon, we headed up to, not we, but the club headed up to McDonald Jones Stadium at Newcastle to face Newcastle, obviously, and lost 6 tries to 3, 34-18. Mate, can you sum that up in one word, that game? Not one word, one sentence?
Yeah, I think it's going to have to be. That was one of the flukiest wins I've ever seen in my life. It was legitimately everything went the Knights' way. The refereeing decisions went the Knights' way. The bounce of the ball went the Knights' way.
Mm-hmm.
The momentum, just when we tried to get momentum back, just shifted the Knights' way miraculously. Like whether we dropped the ball, some of those instances are our own fault. Oh, sorry. Let's say at least 70% of those instances are probably our own fault. But it's just, everything I was watching there, I'm like, it just seemed like the universe was like, yeah, the Knights are going to win. Put the Q in the rack, but they didn't, which is good. But
Yeah, exactly right. It just seems like another one of those games where we're constantly swimming against the tide, and the tide is our own doing. Obviously, we can't shirk away from that fact. But Belinda Sharp was awful, in my opinion.
mm-hmm.
It is just my
Second worst
opinion.
refereeing game this year that I've seen.
It was. She was diabolical, and it's nothing against her personally. I just thought her performance was very, very, very poor. And I'll be specific as to why I thought it was poor. I think that as an inexperienced referee, I think that inexperienced referees tend to lean on the whistle a bit more, and I don't think that and this is not a credit. This is not me attacking her abilities or personality. Sorry, not attacking her character. But I don't know that as a referee, inexperienced ones and her on the weekend have the ability to let the game flow as well. And I think that they are more beholden to external pressures, such as certain big mouths in the opposite team, such as big home crowds, stuff like that. And I think that, again, plays into subconscious bias, unconscious bias, whatever we want to call as well. There were moments during that game where the amount of non-calls that we were getting were just mind-boggling. And likewise, the amount of times that we were getting nabbed for every minute fingernail slightly out of place, slightly in the wrong area, slightly not square, slightly not holding on for a moment too long, some absolute head scratches. And then you have Kalen Ponga, who picks up our player, who picks up Lockie Galvin and drags him, pulls him over to the side after he's trying to get up and play the ball after a long break, which is the textbook definition of a sin bin. And we didn't even get a penalty for it.
No, didn't even get a 6 again. Don't worry about penalty. Didn't even get a 6 again.
You get 6 again, penalty, sin bin, nothing. And that's just one example. The game was littered throughout them. Our discipline, the reason that I'm going to talk about that to start is because it's twofold. So it's not solely that. Our discipline is a continuing issue, and we're losing the impact. So we're losing first contact. We're losing the wrestle. We've spoken about this myriad times. And therefore, we're in poor positions once we're on the ground. We don't have the strength, capacity, bodily, spatial awareness to be able to get off the player efficiently in a way that doesn't yield penalties. So we're sloppy getting out of the ruck. We're slow getting out of the ruck. So we try to maybe push the envelope in a few touchy areas, and that contributes to getting pinned constantly as well. So it's a raft of things. But, I mean, in terms of trying to shoot yourself in the foot, it's the same old story. And that's why a lot of the blowtorch, I think, on Sunday evening went back to Benji, because people are getting a bit first year, yeah, fair enough. And they're trying to build this side, and they're trying to do a lot of series of things for a long-term blood youngsters and offload, quote unquote, deadwood, all this sort of stuff. But this has been nearly 24 games where almost exclusively and almost every game there has been severe discipline issues. There is no improvement in discipline. None. No improvement. Like full stop, period, zero. it simply needs to be better. And I'm just going to keep going back to the fact that I think that they need to figure out this ruck situation. They need to be hitting harder in defence. They need to be an extra 2 foot up in their defensive line, and they need to wrestle more up high. They need to have them on the ground. Need to have them wrestled and controlled before they put them to the ground. Last night, mate, I went and watched the first half of the Canterbury versus Brisbane game from several weeks ago because I actually wanted to go back and zero in on Skelton. And what I noticed about the Bulldogs, because I haven't watched a tremendous amount of their games this season, but what I noticed particularly in that game was not that they're big or strong or anything, but their line speed was incredible, and they held and wrestled on their feet far more. So there's a couple of tackles where Brisbane were running it out of their own end, right out from their try line, and the Bulldogs held them up, wrestled them, and pushed them back into the in goal. Nearly one tackle, and then they did it from 6 metres out, the very next tackle as well. And Brisbane were just hammered. Bulldogs are not big, strong, or more powerful than anybody else, but their line speed was up. Their first contact was big. They gang tackled, and they held them and wrestled them, manipulated them better. I think that our discipline issue starts and ends with that in a lot of ways. And I'm just not seeing that improvement over the course. And, my mindset has now shifted a little bit over the course of the week, and I'm not as zeroed in on that as I was on Sunday night. But I think that Benji and his coaching side and his coaching team need to come under legitimate scrutiny for their inability to improve the one glaring issue that is quite literally costing us any chance of winning football games, which is discipline. It's been atrocious. And I don't know, mate, what do you think? Am I wrong there? Are we seeing some improvement in that area?
You're definitely not wrong, and I don't think that there has been great improvement. I think there are the myriad of factors. I think that there is... I won't say conspiracy, but there's been quite a few games where it feels like it's very one-sided in terms of the opposition is getting away with things that we're not, and that's frustrating. But I still think, there's obviously issues that are legitimate and need to be focused on. But in saying that, how do you fix discipline from the coach's box? You need your senior players on the field to be able to show that. And our senior players have been been very much involved in those disciplinary issues. You know, Appy hasn't been squeaky clean, hasn't been as bad, but Bateman's been an idiot.
It's a good question.
It's
a good question because what a lot of people do is they will point to it, and rightly so. They'll say discipline's an issue, and then they'll critique Benji and saying we're not seeing improvement, as I just did before, but without connecting the dots between them. So it's a really good question. How do you improve it? For me, it's twofold. It's education and it's tactics. And I spoke about tactics. I'd be addressing the ruck. I'd be addressing line speed, ruck, and wrestle. That's how I solve the ruck, and that's how I solve issues like 6 agains and stuff like that. And then to me, the other side of the coin is education. When I say education, I mean football education. I mean drill work and going in and honing every single thing. So if I'm coming in and we're doing video, we've got our structures in place by this point of the year. So we're going to sit down, we're going to go, rightio, every single 6 again, every single penalty, every single infringement, let's go through and have a look why that happened. And so if they're inside, like we were getting pinned for absolutely everything, which is frustrating. And we've said this before that every single team, if I'm to throw a number out there, probably commits 100 indiscretions a game, 100 micro indiscretions, right? And when we talk about unconscious bias, we talk about, well, every team commits far more indiscretions than what is actually ever blown in any game. But the unconscious bias rears its head where the refs will pick more of those micro indiscretions to pick on lower teams, not deliberately, but than the others. However, if I'm looking at something like that and I'm saying, rightio, well, we were pinned for being inside the 10 3 times. Every single drill that we go out there, I'm going to park Hino over on our mock referee in the defensive side. And if anybody's offside, at one point, if you've got a toe offside, whatever punishment you want to do, we're doing laps, we're doing more video, we're doing an extra weight session, we're doing whatever we're doing. Okay, or some sort of micro. Doesn't have to be a punishment. I'm not necessarily indicating that you need to be punished for it, but what I'm trying to do is zero in on, because look, if you're coming in as a fresh coach, you're coming in with a side you're trying to build fresh structures. And so at the start of the year in the off season, they're trying to build fresh attacking structures and fresh defensive structures, right? But at the moment, the attack's going okay. We're going all right. Defensively, we've spoken before. I think defensively, structurally, we're okay. We are okay. It's individual decision making and individual misses that is poor. But
Adam Dewey.
Yeah, but the glaring issue is the discipline. That's what's killing us at the moment. So that's what you need to zero in on. And you can do it in a variety of ways, but it needs to be addressed the same way you would address massive structural defensive deficiencies. The same way that when you had Nofaluma coming in off his wing constantly for years on end, and whatever centre he was paired with on the inside, that needed to be sit down and addressed as a squad and gone, this is an ongoing issue. We will never win football games until we fix this issue. That's what has to happen around this. And then you can attack that from different angles. What are the issues that keep happening? Why do these issues keep happening? And I spoke about ruck and stuff like that. That's just one part of it. Who are the main offenders? What do we need to do training wise to avoid this sort of stuff? Is it a fatigue issue? And actually blowing apart, looking critically at our game and blowing apart what the problem is and aiming to fix it. You ask me how I'd coach out of it. That's what I'd do.
Yeah, and look, I think it's all well and good to say that, because you'd like to think that Benji is not an idiot, that Benji has tried to address this in numerous ways, and there's probably a chance he's tried to do it like that, but for some reason things aren't going onto the field in terms of what I'm trying to say there, converting onto the field. Transferring onto the field. That's probably a better way of saying it. But that's when the senior leaders need to make sure that you're holding everyone accountable. And that's the thing, there's talks of when Jerome comes to the team, he's going to be the captain. And you know what? I am all for that. And there is one particular reason why, and one particular incident why.
I don't think they will, but continue.
Well, when it was 2 years ago and Jamin Salmon was still in the team. Jamin Salmon fucked up. And he fucked up big, but they still won. He had a couple of really bad decisions in attack, really bad decisions in defense. After the game, Luai got in his face and actually blew up at him saying, you did the wrong thing. Learn from it. To deal with it. Because right now, and it's the same issue that I used to have with Brooks, was he's not vocal enough. And I don't think, I know, Appy is not vocal enough. Appy sits there and he just puts his head down and accepts what's happening. Cameron Smith, for me, will go down as one of the greatest players of all time. If not, he is the greatest player of all time. He's a dirty Queenslander, but it is the truth. Well, that's my opinion. That's my opinion anyway. To play over 400 games at hooker, that's a pretty good effort.
It's a good effort. Great player. I just don't agree with
that's okay.
What you said.
And you're allowed to have your incorrect opinion.
Waiting for it. You got it out eventually.
But,
Smart man taught you that phrase, mate.
Yeah, I don't know who it was, but he was one of the best, and everyone said he was like another referee out there because he knew the game so well, so smart. His football intelligence was off the charts, but he was so loud out there. He was always talking, whether it was to the ref, whether it was to his players. Everyone knew who their leader was. Can you honestly say that the team out there right now know that Appy is the leader? Because sometimes I can't tell that.
Yeah, I think I do, but I'm sorry, I think they do. I think he's the heart and soul of the club, but they're different types. And I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying in that regard. I believe that, I think somebody who's louder and a better communicator, not only with his own men, but with the referees in particular, it keeps them accountable and keeps them on their toes and pushes back a little bit as well. And I think coaches need to do it. Benji hasn't come out at all this year, all the decisions that we've copped over the course of the year. And yes, I know every team cops decisions, but we've had some absolute hilariously bad howlers. He hasn't once come out and blasted them. And so there's a lot of internalizing of problems, and that is a really good way to self-improve, and I applaud it. However, part of the manipulation of the game and the politics of rugby league, as you're pointing out, is to be able to externalise some of that stuff and push back and provide pressure because it fucking works. Todd Payton blasted the referees a couple of years ago after copping a couple of quote-unquote rough calls. And North Queensland, as people objectively were saying, got a lot of good calls following that incident when it happened. You talk about someone like Cameron Smith, who was constantly in the ear. You know, there's countless examples of when, that has worked in, again, back to talking about little micro advantages within the games. Anyway, we'll move on a little bit as well. Mate, just really quickly, because we are going to do a nice quick show, wrap this one up relatively quickly this week, but lift or sink, anybody who impressed you on the weekend who you think hit a bit of form or is continuing a bit of form?
Fa'atape.
For a lift?
Fa'atape is my lift.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
You liked his work?
I did. I think I feel he didn't make... He still has work to do in defence. But I think he's starting to develop a really strong communication relationship with Staines. Doesn't rush up as much as he used to. Doesn't try to do that big thing. He's running with purpose. He's running hard. I'd like to see him create a bit more of an offload. But I think it's exactly what you were saying before or last week in that I feel like there's been communication to him to take the shackles off, play a natural game, because this is what I'm seeing now. And then this is what I saw at the start of the year, too, from Fa'atape.
Yeah, we did. And we liked what we saw early days, and then it looked like he played safe to hold his position for most of the year, and maybe was being a bit overcoached. He looks, at least in attack, he looks like the shackles are off a little bit, and he does look the better player, I agree. I think he's backing himself a bit more. You talk about offload. He was, I think it was Marju. I think it's one Marju arm away from putting Staines over with a flick in the corner. Make no mistake. If that flick, if his arm is half a foot higher, like that's a clean try. So it was unlucky he didn't actually have a try assist there. So, he's doing well. It's easy to forget as well. He came at the back end of the off season, so he's had no off season with the Tigers in terms of defensive structures and all that sort of stuff. So, as we said last week, working on, I'd much rather be decent attack, work on defence than be decent defence, work on attack. That's just me personally, and so hopefully he can continue to improve.
Yep.
Good. And mate, sink. I think we're probably both going to throw Adam in here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Adam Dewey's defence is absolutely abhorrent. Both man on man, both structurally, decision making. He's absolutely nowhere at the moment.
Yep.
And he gets one more, in my opinion, he gets one more off season to prove that he isn't a terrible edge defender. Otherwise, it's number 14 at best. I love Adam Dewey in terms of what he brings culturally. I love his skill set as a player. I know he's got a lot of heart. I know he loves the club, and I want him to be successful at our club. His defence, especially considering he's been around now for a good half a decade in first grade, is not first grade standard.
No.
It's nowhere near it.
No.
You agree?
And it's not like, and then that's, 100%. And unfortunately, it's not like he has had a terrible luck with injury.
Yeah.
But, again, it's been 6 years. So...
It has, mate. So hopefully he's selected again this week. Hopefully he can make an improvement there, and fingers crossed that he can, mate. Anything you want to mention about the Knights game before we move on to doing our prediction for Souths?
One thing is I really want someone to, if the game's done and dusted, just put one on Tyson Gamble's chin. That parrot needs to stop chirping,
Said a long time ago, I'd love to play against Tyson Gamble.
Yeah.
Be good fun.
Like, imagine him, like Big Red. Imagine him going one-on-one with Big Red back in the...
Credit to Seafarth. He showed the most restraint he's shown in a long time, a very mature response. And it's ridiculous that Gamble, who gave away 2 consecutive penalties, wasn't sent for a spell.
Oh, no.
They've got to up that. Mate, we're going to jump into a very quick summary of prediction heading into the Rabbitohs game on Saturday. Shorter show this week, folks, but we're trying to pump it out for you. Hopefully next week we'll be back in our regular hour-long slot or whatnot, but we're still 43 minutes going, so we're going all right.
We're going all right.
Mate, this is how we line up against the Rabbitohs on Saturday night at Campbelltown Stadium. Buller is at fullback. Luke Lealali'i returns from HIA? Yeah. Head knock. Yeah,
that's
concussion protocols. On the wing to replace Solomon Alamalo. We've then got Fa'atape and Dewey in the centres, Staines on the other wing. Galvin and Caesar remain in the halves, although Caesar is obviously in doubt with a bit of bone bruising on the knee. Personally, he was second in my sync. I thought he was terrible on the weekend. His kicking game was terrible. His decision-making defence was terrible. And, very disappointed with him on the weekend.
The other thing,
Stefan
I
Clemmer,
will kind of back him up on his kicking game, but our forwards didn't give him any time to actually make the kick. Their line speed was ridiculous because it was illegal, but yeah.
Stefan Clemmer of the props. Appy is hooker. Seafarth comes in for the dropped Porter, who didn't have a great game on the weekend. Was far away not the worst in my opinion, but lo and behold, there we go. But Seafarth's been playing well. I don't rate him as an edge. I rate him as a good bench utility, forward utility, but here we are. And then we've got Semwella and Papali'i, who I think's been solid on his return, playing at lock. I'm glad he's there for the moment. We've got Talon, Sione Fain, who returns, thank goodness, good young player in 15, Pole and 12 round out the bench. Now, Latu also returns from concussion protocols in the 18. Personally, I'm crossing all fingers and toes that we get a youthful combination of the halves again. We get to see Latu play a game and Caesar drops out. That's what I really want more than anything. Yep. The rest of the squad is Heath Mason, Ruben Porter Jr. Tupou has been named in the extended list, and Tony Suka. So, mate, that's the extended list. First, a couple of questions for you, nice and succinct. Do you give us a chance against Souths on the weekend?
Sure.
Why not? I'm the same. It's a winnable game. I'm not saying we will, but definitely winnable. Mate, who wins and why?
I'm still going to do it until it happens. So we win because Cody Walker implodes.
Okay. He's going to have a barnstormer now. And what's your bold prediction, mate?
Dewey will change his tune.
That's good. I hope that happens.
Yeah. And anyone that just listened to what we said about him knows what I'm saying there.
Yeah. It's all application, and it's not turning and running when they get past, all that sort of stuff. Okay. Yeah, mate, I'll give us every chance as well. Once again, it depends on who turns up, which Tigers side turns up, and it depends upon how many minutes we can play. If we play for more than 22 minutes in the game and keep our discipline in check, then we could blow them off the park, but the problem is we can't play for more than 25 minutes in a match, and we almost just gift Christmas presents to the opposite team time after time after time. So it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully we're playing some good football. I'm going to say that we win. I'm going to say we win 30-16 in a wet game. I've got no idea what the weather's doing. The weather should be fine. Excellent. And my bold prediction is that Luke Lelele is actually going to come back and have his best game in a Tigers jumper with a couple of tries.
Nice.
So, he's going to run for over 200 metres.
I'm good with that.
Hopefully the young man does so. All right, mate. Very good. So a bit of a truncated show this evening. Thanks, folks, for being patient and tuning in. We've still got several for the back end of the year, and then we've got grand final shows, and we've got season wrap-ups and all this sort of stuff to look forward to. So still plenty of pods to come the back end of this year, mate. Anything else you want to add before we wrap the show up now?
Nope. Big nope.
Don't want to elaborate on that?
No.
Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, and Apple is where you can find us, Tiger Town Podcast. As always, jump on over to the West Tigers Podcast. They do great work over there as well. Follow all West Tigers media that you can because we're on the same team. We're all fighting to get this great side back where they should be. Thanks once again to our sponsor, Best on Ground Digital, bestongrounddigital.com. They will not steer you wrong. Anything digital marketing related, get onto them. They do the best work. Mate, other than that, that's about it, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I will be honest and say that I am not as enthused as I was at the start of the year. I kind of forgot when we were playing this week, and when I realised it was Saturday, I'm like, oh, okay. So,
But it is nice we're not coming up against. It's nice we're not coming up against a Melbourne or a Penrith or a Storm or Melbourne are the Storm.
Well, Rabbitohs were good 2 years ago.
They were. At least it's a game that hopefully we can have a bit of a chance at, eh?
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Thank you, everybody, for being patient this week. I've already said that a couple of times, but it does mean a lot to us. Thanks once again for tuning in, supporting the show. It humbles us every single week. Nothing more else to say other than that. Good luck on Saturday to the boys, and go the mighty West Tigers.
Up the Tigers.